your cowboy shit.
Welcome to episode 199 of Cowboy Shit. My name is Ted Stoven. He is James Foley. And we're in the middle of it, James. It's Cowboy Christmas time. And we're fucking doing it.
Santa Claus and rain, Cowboy Christmas.
Yeah. And did you get any rain? Because my uncle way up north said he's got no rain so far.
No, we you know what, we missed it all. We got a little bit Sunday afternoon. We got a bunch today, but no, we didn't get. We were right on the north edge of her.
Huh.
Everybody else got dumped on.
Yeah, Wainwright was cold and wet and rainy, and I guess since the last time we talked, what did we do? I've been in Ottawa, but I'm back in the Brahma Boot studio. I gotta point to it.
He's home. He's home.
Home for one night. So thanks for making this work today. So we can be in the studio. Thanks again to Brahma Boot for being a podcast studio sponsor. Check them out, CanadaWestBoots.com. Everything's made in Winnipeg, Manitoba, proudly Canadian made since 1978. And while you're at the Pinocchio Stampede this week, make sure to grab yourself a pair of brown boots at Jones Boys.
Get in there, get a new set of boots, go dancing,
Yeah. Go to the rodeo,
go to the rodeo, go to the beer
go
gardens,
to the PBR, go to the Chuck Wagons, go to a concert.
get in a fight, go
Maybe.
home. That's
Maybe.
rodeoing.
That's just rodeo.
That's rodeoing.
Well, you were doing some rodeoing in your fucking street tonight, I think, right, weren't you?
Yeah, oh yeah, little cop action happening. You know what I mean? Kids, stay away from drugs.
Don't do drugs, kids.
Don't do drugs. That's a hard fact of life. Boys were scrapping across the road there, so neighbors called the cops on them.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Billy showed up.
Billy, like Bill Caverly?
Yeah,
Was Bill one of the cops?
no,
Bill could be a cop.
neighborhood. He's neighborhood watch.
Oh, okay, neighborhood watch.
Yeah, he runs a tight ship over here.
Good work, Billy. Shout out Bill
Yeah,
Caverly, PBR Canada Sound Tech. He's the man in charge of audio. Got
the audio
everything.
man.
Where you been the last few weeks? What have you been up to?
Well, we've been pretty quiet. We had a ABBI Canada fraternity at our place on Saturday. That was the 21st. We had like 50 calves from probably like 10 or 12 different Canadian breeders. It was cold as all heck.
Oh
It
no.
was like it was like +8, I think, when we started bucking at 11 a.m. Um,
Ouch.
and then as soon as we were done, it started raining, so it worked out perfect. We got some calves bucked and we did good. Logan High showed up with some buckers and the 2 year olds.
Oh, right on.
So they did good. Yeah, we did good. Kira mopped up in the cowgirl. She got first and second. We won the
Nice.
yearling with a little heifer, and then got second in the open fraternity with the 2 year old. So yeah, we're chugging along.
Well done. All profit, of course.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's you know what I mean. The fraternity game's not for everybody, but it's a fun part of raising animals, and we get to showcase kind of the breeding and watch the animals move along as they get older. Um, yeah, it's a good way to market your animals, and it's a cool little deal. So those are kicking up, and then it's bull riding season. So she's busy all over the place.
Right? We start in Pinoca the day the show comes out on Wednesday. Wednesday night with a rodeo, Jake Worthington after. Then we got concerts all week. Big Chuck Wagons, Mark Chestnut, High Valley, Haley Benedict, former guest of the show. Who else? Dean Brody in Pinoca at the Stampede, the Hillside Outlaws. We got the PBR on Saturday night. Come check that one out. Like I said, Chuck Wagons all week. We just finished up Wainwright as well, the Wainwright Stampede for the 72nd edition. Shout out to my buddy Brett Gardner on the microphone at that one. And the whole crew, my crew did a great job as well and has been for the last few weeks. Caden Willows, Martina Holtkamp, Matt Korchinski went to Rocky as well. So we did Rocky and Staveley, and then I was in London and Ottawa, and we got Pinoca and Clooney and Bengoff, and then Bull Bustin', James. And we got the list of the riders for Bull Bustin', special insider access.
Heavy
And
list.
It's a doozy, man. Holy smokes.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty stacked field of riders.
Tell us some of the people on that list, man.
Yeah, you got Andrew Alvidrez coming up. You got who else do we see? Lucas Divino. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Some of these guys from the PBR, and then you got some PRCA boys like Trey Holston, Jed
Yeah.
Harkins. It's
Brady
going to
Fielder,
be
like we didn't maybe talk
yeah,
about yet.
Brady Fielder,
Zeke
absolute
Mitchell,
slugger.
right?
Zeke is coming up.
Boston and
Yeah,
Macaulay Leather out of Australia, now part of PBR teams as well. Then you got guys like Jared Parsonage, Lonnie West, the three-time champ Aaron Roy, Chance Switzer. I gotta say, Chance Switzer rode Blue Magic of Nanson's and Wainwright, and he made that bull look so easy. It was
what they
wild.
score?
Like 86, like could have been
Oh,
88, 89, easy. Like he just made that bull look easy. It was wild.
yeah, like it. I don't even like it's stacked. Obviously, you're gonna, what I mean, you got to go say Brady Fielder's probably your odd has the odds of winning at Bull Bustin, but man, you got some
Some wolves.
handy Canadians, good bulls.
Yep.
It's gonna be a good show.
Gonna be a great one. Jake Gardner coming off the win in Wainwright. That guy's had a
Yeah,
couple great years. Cody Coverchuck will probably get hot, but like we talked about it last year a little bit. I don't know if you and I talked about it specifically, but Cody's doing a one header every day. So those guys can win 20,000. There's 20,000 out of a night. I don't think any entry fees, but you can win like 7,000 a night plus the Calcutta money if you get a little bonus on that one. But 7,000, say 7,000 a night by 5 nights, that's like 35,000 bucks. Then go right into the
35
Calgary
grand.
Stampede, right? You 40% that sucker. Like that's a hefty paycheck for a week of riding the bulls, and it's only 5 bulls instead of 10, right? So Cody changed the format a little bit and made it, took I think he's taking 20, I think he's taking 30 or 35 guys and just splitting the second half into kind of the short go slash Calcutta. So we're gonna do that on Saturday in Pinoca as well. But where I was thinking last year, I was like, Cody, you kind of changed the game here. You just made that last section the short round so you can still get your Calcutta in, but it makes way more sense. These guys are going so hard, and you're beating them up a lot. So I think his list here just proves that that format really really makes sense. No offense about less work equals more money, but it's there's just so many bulls to get on. Like, how does a guy get on 10 bulls? Like, getting on 10 bulls, you're gonna be so sore, so tired. You're gonna miss out on the guys that are going to the Calgary Stampede later in the week, probably because they don't want to go and beat themselves up on 10 bulls before they go to that one, right?
Yeah, and then you got all the other events coming into it,
All the
right? There
rodeos.
there's
Yeah.
what Sundry was this past
Yep.
weekend.
The other two got canceled.
Wainwright,
Yeah.
the other two got canceled. You got
Still got
Wainwright,
Williams
then
Lake, Airdrie.
Airdrie, and then you got Pinoca going on. You got
Yep.
Clooney going on. Like these guys
Yep.
got a ton of animals to get on.
So many things to go to.
So
So,
yeah, you got to cut it back so they can perform.
right. So good work to Cody on changing up the format. There may be some other folks that are involved in that business too, but kudos to the crew for making that happen and changing that up. Um, it was a great event last year in 5 days worth, and now we got another 5 days and we got a stacked list of riders. So it's looking good. It's looking good. I'm excited to get the Gator on the music there the first night too, fully.
Ooh, Gators coming out.
Gator's busting out at Bull Bustin'.
Jeez, do you give him a playlist or does Gator kind of
Oh
get to
no.
run wild?
Gator's a free agent.
Wow.
Gator don't take no shit, and he will play whatever shit he wants to play,
Gator's a man behind the board.
right? He will do what
Give
he
him a lot.
wants,
Give him a laptop. The boy will play music.
right? The other thing we gotta get to a little bit fully here is the I guess there's two things. Pinoca Stampede added in the breakaway roping, and then Calgary Stampede added in the breakaway roping. But then
I seen that.
at the same time, I got thinking more about the Canadian content, and I think I'm finally leaning towards the way that Calgary does things. But I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are.
So what's the format in Calgary? Like where are
Uh,
they sticking the breakaway?
I don't know. I think it's going closer to the end of it. I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure,
Uh,
but uh, great to see the breakaway in there either way.
yeah.
But what my point was is that the the Calgary. So this week's show, we've got Joel Cowley from the Calgary Stampede on the podcast. He's the CEO of the Stampede itself. We had a big chat with him, as we'll get to later on here in the interview. But interesting conversation with a few different things. Talking about the $100,000. Like, I think it's got to come back. I
Yeah,
think I think the marketing side of it, the allure, like the American rodeo, right, has the big potential prize. So there's a lot of draw because somebody could win $1 million, right? And it's only
right.
happened like what, once or twice so far,
Maybe
maybe
three
so far,
times.
like a couple times in like a 10-year
Yeah,
history, right? 10 or 11 years,
right.
12 years now, maybe, and it's happened a couple times. So cool, but like the allure of it brings a lot of prestige and a lot of interest that way. Where like, no offense to Calgary right now, but it's regressed a bit because the of some of the allure is gone. Like it pays the same now as it paid in the 80s. And if you look at, there was one thing that I didn't bring up with Joel, but if I go to an inflation calculator here, Bank of Canada inflation calculator, let's go right to the page. So if I put in what cost $50,000 in 1985, today it would be how much? $130,000. So in those 40 years that the Calgary Stampede's paid out the, $50,000 bonus, technically it should be a $130,000 bonus now. And I don't have the numbers on what the Stampede paid in 2000 or in, overall in 1985. The entire payouts probably went up. But even like, let's just go back to um, let's just go back to this inflation calculator, and I just want to look at, let's just go back to 2006 even. When was the last time it paid 100,000? 2019.
2019, I think you're right.
100, 1, 2, 3. That's a million. Too many zeros. 100,000. Calculate. Even now, it's $120,000 in 2025. There's been a
Right.
20% increase in 6 years.
Yeah, I feel like they have to get it. Like that's the whole nostalgia of Calgary, right?
Right.
Is $100,000 payout.
Yeah.
Like when they went from 50 to 100, that was like everybody talked about,
Right. And they
right?
went to an open rodeo, the other side of it. Like, so the argument, and I get where they're at. Like the argument is like, yeah, we're paying out $2 million, and it's a $2 million rodeo. They're back at where they were before. It's like 2.1 million now. I think I read actually I have the actual number. I should get my facts straight. Let's go back to here. It says $2.171 million, which is maybe the most ever. So if you add in the breakaway, which is paying 310,000, 310 and $250, $310,250.
Yeah,
That's a full major event worth of money. So say six events at 50,000, there's your 300,000. So instead of going to 100,000, they added in the breakaway. So I get that. Like they're bringing the money back up. Like I got to give them kudos. Like you're bringing it back up. This is great. And the other side of this is that we talk about Calgary because it's on the biggest stage, but there's a lot of rodeos on the Canadian Pro Rodeo schedule or the PRCA schedule that probably have the same minimum added money as they had 25, 30, 40 years ago now too. So the
right.
incentive of growing the sport is difficult when those numbers don't ever go up. And yeah, we talk about Calgary and put it in the spotlight here, but like we can call out probably a ton of rodeos. So one that I'm not going to call out is Ponoka because they have increased it in the last few years and they have a great show and they're continuing to improve it. Strathmore is adding more money. I don't know where Innisfail's at. It used to pay a ton back in the Jack Danes days, but like there's it's tough when there's less incentive to do it, right? Like it's volunteer run organizations, most of these shows, they're just doing the best they can to have a show every year. But I don't know. I don't know what to say. But like kudos to Calgary for adding the breakaway. And I gotta regress a little bit on the Canadian content. I'm glad they heard some Canadians. And I think it's important for it to count for the PRCA because we've had a lot more Canadian contestants at the NFR in the last few years because of this.
Yeah.
So kudos on that front. But on the other side of it, like what's their incentive to at 100,000 now? If the Cowboys are still coming, like why would they Why would they make it 100,000? What would they be? What are they gaining?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's like with a lot of things, right? Like uh in whenever 2021 they drop it due to COVID, right?
Yeah,
Which I
understandable.
which I totally understandable.
They
But
lost like $18 million that year. So like great job
that
just getting through that.
yeah, but then things come back and like we talked in the other podcast, I think the Western sports and lifestyle is like at an all-time high right now.
Hmm.
Um Man, you can't even go get groceries without seeing an 18 to 22-year-old kid wearing cowboy boots in the grocery store.
Right?
Like it's through the roof. Like everybody's wanting to be a part of it, I think. And um yeah, I don't know what Calgary benefits from it, but I think from like uh an athlete side or anybody who's a part, like it's just a nostalgia. It's $100,000 Calgary Stampede.
Yeah, I'm with you. And to add another $300,000 now, like it's about a 14% increase to add, add that money back to the 100,000. And the argument could be that there's more in the rounds, maybe, having those count, and if it pays 10,000 a day, pays 7,000 now. If you're adding that much money, put it in the rounds, maybe make those really pay a ton there. Like I get that, and if you could have all those count, and you could walk out of there with 100,000 at the end of the week, that'd be cool. Or maybe the check should show, 71,000 if you win all three rounds for 21,000 plus the 50. Like maybe that's what should be on the check. Did that
Right.
total?
Like, yeah, like this says in 2024, the Calgary Stampede generated a profit of 4.8 million with revenues reaching $206 million.
So, and that's the entire organization that, as
Right.
Joel explains, is there's so many parts to
Oh, they're a
that
huge
organization, right?
business.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I think they I think what put Calgary as Calgary is they were a Canadian market on the American top end, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
they were in the same shoes of as Houston, as the American. I think the American isn't it $100,000 if you win it and you
I
don't
think so.
and you're not a
A million
qualifier for
dollars.
the million.
Yeah.
Like that was the whole point of Calgary. Like that was everybody's dream
You
to
know,
get there and have a shot at the $100,000.
and being a leader and an innovator, and they were the first ones to do that, right? So
Yeah,
that was 2006 they did that, which was like unheard of, right? And it might not account for anything, but it sure made the people go. And now it's probably there's less incentive when it's counting for the PRCA because there's so much more incentive to go to try and qualify for the NFR. So I get I get both sides of it now. Before I'd be hardly, I put a hard line down on it's got to go back to this, and I still agree it should. But it's not going to change until somebody has an idea that says it needs to go back to that number, and it happens that way. Like Joel explained a bit more here too on where things are at that way. But like, yeah, if the Cowboys keep coming, which they still go to, you know, they still go to a lot of rodeos for not a lot of money. So, I mean, it is what it is. But like on the other side, I want to talk about the Canadian content too, because I've always harped on that, and it's regressed a little bit more with having more contestants there. There's also the format we get into the show. I shouldn't give everything away, so I'll leave it. But I'm regressing on my stance because it's like having a PGA Tour event, like the top tour have an event in Calgary. Like you're not going to have a bunch of Canadians at this event because it's the top in the world. And that's
right.
been the argument everybody's always given me about Calgary. And I finally get it. I finally understand, like, yeah, no, that is the best in the world. So you gotta respect that. So finally doing
Yeah,
that.
I mean, the best are the best. It's the best in the world, not the best in Canada.
Yeah. And there are all the best in Canada are there too. And they've qualified. So,
Yeah,
and like we saw a couple years ago, the best in Canada beat the best in the world. There's four Canadians that won the 50,000 out of the six. So it was awesome. And, be pretty badass if the first girl that wins the breakaway is a Canadian too. So we'll see how it all goes, Mr. Foley.
gonna
I
be a
hope
good.
there's a great Calgary Stampede. I'm really looking forward to going to the parade. Looking forward to seeing Bree in the arena with the Canadian flag. I'm looking
Yep.
forward to all of the Stampede. Looking forward to being home and sleeping in my own bed for a while. Gonna be great. We're gonna see you down here at all or what? You gonna consider?
I don't know if we're gonna come down or not.
No?
Game time decision.
Well, come down the second week if you want to come hang at HQ. You guys
Okay.
are welcome. Hopefully, you got
Hang
somebody
out
who can
at
do the chores
in the Brahma Boot headquarter.
in the studio. The studio, you can stay next door to the studio.
I don't think you give yourself enough credit for the little green thumb you got going behind you either.
You like that?
Yeah, looks good.
I've kept these plants alive for a couple years now, at least a couple.
You know, keeping plants alive is tough.
It is not an easy job. You got anything else for this one, Foley?
No, man. It's
No?
hammer down time.
It
It's
is.
gonna be a lot of shuffling in the standings.
Got that right.
Like I'm guessing that every 3 days we're gonna have a different leader in every event until July 20th. So
Pretty much.
good luck to everybody. Travel safe, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Good call. And once again, Bull Bust, and I forgot July 1st to 5th in Calgary, Grey Eagle Casino. Just for those wondering, if you don't have tickets, you probably not get to go. We might have to talk to somebody corporately, say, hey, invite me to the suite. But yeah, man, thanks for making this work tonight. Sorry that you had to handle the fools of the neighborhood prior to this.
Little karate chopping out there.
Yeah. No, thanks for making it work, and thanks to Lauren and Jason and the whole crew at Calgary for lining up this interview, and Devin Riches as well on the video side of things. Appreciate everybody making it happen. James, thanks for making this work tonight too.
Thanks, Teddy.
All right, brother. Okay, see you down the road. Once again, I'm Ted Stovin. He is James Foley. We're in the Brahma Boot studio. This is Cowboy Shit. It's episode 199. I forgot to talk about that, but we're one away from 200, James. It's almost time.
Yeah, that's big too.
Oh, wow.
That's big too. When did you start?
17, December 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
And 200 next time.
Yeah. It's a lot of episodes.
Fireworks?
I don't know.
Set off fireworks in the backyard for
TBD.
for number 200.
TBD. It'll be during Stampede, so we'll see. Gotta make a plan.
Oh,
Anyways, we'll see. Thanks for making this work, man.
No worries.
We are back in the president's room at the Calgary Stampede with the CEO of the Calgary Stampede, Mr. Joel Cowley. Welcome back to the show. We were just talking, it's been a couple of years since we've been in here. So
yeah,
thanks
I think about 3 years. Great to be back.
Yeah.
And welcome back to the president's room.
I want to say we talked to Will Osler here last year, maybe, or the year before. I remember talking to Steve McDonough. Steve was very adamant about the president's room. He thought it was a pretty cool perk of the job when he was the president.
Pretty nice space to be in, and this table right in front of us has
all the signatures on it.
Yeah, every one of the past presidents, their signatures are engraved. Of course, the earlier ones, it's not their actual signature, but the later ones, it is their actual signature engraved in the table.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Was there one with the? Is there a CEO table too?
There is no CEO table. Maybe I'll start that.
You might start that. Start in 2025. Well. So I think we should start off quickly the history of the Calgary Stampede. There's a few different pieces here. I remember the first time I kind of started getting involved was around 2010 or so when I started the website back in the day, and I was in school at the U of C. And I don't know if this is still a thing, but I took a 400 level university class about the Calgary Stampede. It was an entire semester. Do they still even do that?
I'm not sure if they offer that anymore or not, but it's not a bad idea because it is so incredibly ingrained within the history of Calgary and the identity of Calgary that everyone should be required if they live in Calgary to know about the Stampede. Yeah.
I was so amazed that it was even on the programming, and I was going to school at the U of C for business back in, this was the spring of 2011. And it was the spring I started the website, but the amount of stuff that I learned there that semester, it was I forget what the professor's name was, but he had a book that he wrote that I actually that was part of the curriculum, right? But he talked about, the Calgary Stampede isn't just the rodeo, and I was like, wait, that's definitely what it is, right? But for the people that are listening to the show here, watching on the video side of things, they might not realize that there's a lot more to the Stampede than just the rodeo and the chuck wagons.
Yeah, and most people are familiar with the 10-day event. We operate a year-round business as well, and most people, they're focused on the the big headline items, whether that's the Midway or the rodeo or the chuck wagon or grandstand. But our beginnings go way, way back, basically to the origin of the city of Calgary.
Which almost became a different name, Brisebois, right?
Yeah. They Fort Calgary was established in 1875, and then the railroad arrived here in 1883. And in 1884, in August of 1884, the Calgary and District Agricultural Society was formed. That's really
what we are now.
Our beginning was that organization. You see some esteemed gentlemen on the wall behind you there that were the presidents of that organization. And so it was formed in August of 1884 to promote the tremendous agricultural potential of this region and convince farmers from the east to come west.
Really?
To develop that potential. Now, I tell this story with full acknowledgement for the hardship and the injustices that caused to Indigenous peoples, but that's really how we started. It was an agricultural mission. In the fall of 1884, they couldn't put a fair on immediately, so they sent a rail car back east with all of the bountiful agricultural products that came from Alberta. I think Manitoba actually got in on it as well.
Saskatchewan too, maybe?
To promote.
And from Manitoba, just for the record.
In November of 1884 is when the town of Calgary was incorporated.
Oh, really?
So technically the Calgary Stampede's older than the city is.
So the Calgary Stampede kind of was what the city was named after?
Well,
not quite.
No, because it wasn't the Calgary Stampede at that point. We were the
Calgary
Industrial Exposition.
Yeah.
Or exhibition, excuse me, exhibition. Yeah. They held the first exhibition in 1886, and it was actually held just south of the Bow Tower. And it was basically an open field, and they showed all species of livestock, and they brought their best grain products in for judging. Wow. But they had some interesting things like a beautiful baby contest. Three entries in that. They actually had a snowstorm that was held in the fall, and they had a snowstorm in November.
Well, that makes sense.
And there were no sheep that showed up, so they basically took the sheep premium and they paid each baby first place prize because none of the judges wanted to tell any of these parents that their baby was ugly, so that worked out well. They held the exhibition there, 1886, 1887, 1888, and then in 1889, the industrial exhibition, the District and Agricultural Society bought this land that we operate on now.
Oh, wow.
They paid $235 for 94 acres, and they bought it from the Dominion government, the federal government at that time. And there was actually a restrictive covenant on the land that you couldn't develop it for home sites. It had to be used for an exhibition. And that covenant...
1886?
That was 1889 when we moved to this property. Wow. They immediately took out a $3,000 mortgage and built the first racetrack. And they built an agriculture building, and they built, I hesitate to call it a grandstand. They built bleachers, and they built a couple of lean-to sheds for cattle. They later extended that mortgage to $4,000. And then, unfortunately, in 1895, there was a ice storm in September that really crippled the agricultural industry in the area with regard to, killing off crops and making it hard. And so they had to cancel the event, and they went bankrupt. And they lost the land.
What?
At that point.
1895.
In 1895, there was no show in 1895, 96, or 97, or 98. In 1899, they did put on a fair, working with Fish Creek and Davisburg and other local municipalities that came in and helped it out. Ultimately, R.B. Bennett, future premier, and of course the founder of Bennett Jones Law Firm, he bought the land. He later sold it to the city, and the city leased it back to the Calgary Stampede or the Industrial Exhibition beginning in 1911. And so that started our long-term lease on this property, was in 1911.
Wow.
And then, of course, 1912 was the very first Calgary Stampede with Guy Wiedek and Flores Ledoux coming in.
Right behind you, I think.
They did it again in 1919, and then the two organizations, the Industrial Exhibition, the Agricultural Fair, and the Western Celebration, the Calgary Stampede, merged in 1923. that's really how we started. It was two different events, two different organizations that merged in 1923. But we've been here in Calgary since the very beginning, and the city has grown up around us, which is pretty interesting.
I want to get into a technicality. If we're going 1912 was the first one, then 1919, and then 2023 or 1923, that would mean that the 100th anniversary of the first Stampede was 2012,
Correct.
which was celebrated
Correct.
widely.
Yep.
And then, but then the 101st wasn't until 2019, technically, right? If you're counting,
you
can count years.
You can count events or you can count years.
Yeah. Because I was going to say the actual 100th Calgary Stampede might be 2025.
Yeah, because and of course we didn't have one in 2020 with the cancellation. So you can count events or you can count years. So in 2012 they chose to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the very first one that happened. So really our roots. Agriculture and Western heritage, and we continue that today. Now we offer a lot in support of that to draw a larger audience. As I tell people, and I actually stole this from Taylor Sheridan. Yeah, I heard him speak about Yellowstone.
Was this at the
PRCA convention? And just to be completely forthright, I think Yellowstone's okay. It was.
You're not the only one.
It's a little hokey for me, quite frankly. Yeah. But Taylor Sheridan addressed that when he spoke at that PRCA convention. He said sometimes you have to put a little sugar on the pill. So he knew he was taking it a little bit far, but that's okay because it captures a broader audience. So here on Park, we do the same thing. We have fireworks and
over 100 concerts.
And we have an incredible midway, and we have motocross bikes flying through the air and dog bowl shows and all of these things. To me, that's kind of the sugar on the pill. Let's get them here. They may be coming for a different reason, but while they're here on site, let's expose them to some Western heritage, Western hospitality, and let's also educate them on the importance of agriculture, because it's only going to become more important as the global population continues to grow and we really have no more land mass.
And a lot of the land is going to the urbanization of a lot of the different areas. Calgary's one of the biggest urban footprints of any major city. I don't know in what area, but it's got a very, very major footprint.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great farm and ranch land that's getting eaten up by city.
Yeah. And so what that means is that it's going to take technology to feed the planet in the future. And the people and their children who come through and enjoy the Calgary Stampede, they're the current and future consumers that will either accept or reject that technology. So we take it upon ourselves to educate them on agriculture production, where their food comes from, how their food is produced. They're also the current and future voters who are going to vote for legislators that are either supportive of agriculture or not. So we take our role very seriously as far as educating the public on agriculture, and we take it very seriously preserving our Western heritage and making sure that people understand that as well.
One of the best pieces of education for the future, in my experience of the Calgary Stampede, has to be Aggie Days in April. It was something that I came to ride at the convention rodeo back in 2010 when I was still competing, and I thought they were the coolest things because we got on great stock, and it was with all the Calgary folks. I remember Barry McGrath being part of the event and gave me an envelope with $150 cash in it for riding bulls. And the end of the week we went to Nickelback because they were at the Saddle Dome later in the week, and I just remember being around and I love this. This is the best place ever. I can go ride and make guaranteed money at the convention rodeo when I'm 20 years old, and then go watch Nickelback. But there's probably about 2,500 kids that are grade 4 to 6, I think, that are all at the Nutrien Western Event Center in early April. So it's in the middle of school year. You bus them in. There's buses everywhere. There's tons of kids there. There's agricultural exhibits underneath. But for some people watching, they might not realize that that's part of the Calgary Stampede mandate, is educating the entire city and helping people, that the urban population, understand where the food comes from.
Yeah, and we do a lot of that education during the 10 days of the Stampede with activity in the city and little critters. critters and things like that. The great thing about Aggie Days is we have more space and we have easier access for these students. that are coming through, so we can spread out and really do a nice job of engaging them. So it's about 3,000 kids per day over the 3 days, so about 9,000 students. And then on the weekend, we open it up to families, and we get about 10,000 each of those days. And so you're talking about tens of thousands of people coming to Stampede Park in April to learn about agriculture and also get a taste of Western heritage. And so that's outside of the Calgary Stampede. That's our biggest program that we put on. And again, we take that very seriously because we know that's a great opportunity to educate the public.
But that probably costs the Stampede, like, I don't know how much money that would even cost to do. And that's a community initiative that the funding would come from the organization through ticket sales, sponsorship, community pieces. Maybe there might be some government funding or city funding, like provincial, I'm not sure, but like, that's something that's been done for probably 35 years.
It's done, and it's a commitment we make. I mean, just to look at it as a standalone event. No, it doesn't make money.
It doesn't even generate any.
But
like,
it's core to our mission. And so as I look at the things the Calgary Stampede does, to me, they fall into one of three buckets. The first of which is mission. We don't do it to make money. We do it because that's why we exist. And so that agriculture, Western heritage, service to the community, that all falls in there. And then you have elements that are margin. In other words, they're designed to generate net revenue. And so I think of our convention business, which is increasing with the expansion of the BMO Centre, and love that. And then, of course, sponsorship and things like that. And then you have these magical things that are both mission and margin. And so I'd say the rodeo is the evening show with the chuck wagon racing, because that fulfills our mission to really preserve and promote Western heritage. But we also sell tickets, so we end up with net revenue. And all those revenue generating events are what fund these mission events that provide great service to the community. So as a not-for-profit, we exist for the benefit of the community, but we serve a very, very broad community with a very broad mandate as well.
The BMO Centre, for those that don't know, is open during your time here. I want to say the doors opened like last spring?
Just like a year ago.
A year ago, right? Before Stampede 2024.
Yeah. So early June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a piece that, for those that don't know, might be listening from the U.S. or a different country right now, even in Canada or in Calgary, might not realize, but it's the biggest convention space west of Toronto in all of Canada, and probably next to Vegas, maybe all of the western North America. I could be wrong. I'm just guessing on that part.
Yeah, it's the largest in Western Canada.
Yeah.
It's just over 1 million square feet. So when you're over 1 million square feet, technically you're a Tier 1 convention center.
Yeah. And how many of those are there in North America?
Quite a few.
Quite a few. Okay.
A lot in the U.S.
Okay.
But you get outside of Toronto, this is the big one.
The big one.
So we're bigger than Vancouver as well.
Yeah.
We opened the BMO Centre as the Roundup Centre in 1981, and historically, before this expansion, it's largely been a trade and consumer venue. In other words, trade shows, consumer shows, such as Home and Garden Show, RV show, motorcycle show, auto show, they come to Calgary, and Calgarians come and buy tickets and go to those events. And that's historically. That's not to say we didn't draw conventions before this BMO Centre opened, but it really wasn't designed as a convention space with sufficient meeting space and ballroom space. What the BMO expansion does is it turns us into a true convention center with 38 meetings rooms on the second floor, 70,000 square feet between two ballrooms on the third floor, and then an additional 110,000 square feet of exhibit space on the first floor. Now we can compete and draw the largest of global conventions. In fact, just next week we'll have Rotary International.
Yeah,
probably between 15 and 17,000 delegates coming from all over the world.
Wow. And that's in addition to the G7 that's on right now as we speak. Air Force One landed last night at YYC, and we were driving back from Canmore, and we saw the whole like all the Ospreys and the Marine One heading out to Kananaskis.
Yeah,
one of the coolest things.
I didn't see them. I was outside working in my yard. I think I heard them go over.
You heard them go over? We saw them both ways. We were driving back, and we saw them heading west, and then we saw them. They flew right over us on Stony Trail going back home. It was one of the coolest things I've seen.
But the importance of the convention center is that it draws guests and attendees from outside of town. they bring money. They stay in hotels, they eat in restaurants, they take taxis and Ubers. So it's bringing money to Calgary that otherwise would not have been here, unlike a trade show where the local audience is attending. And so that's why the city, the province, and the federal government each put up 1/3 of the $500 million to build the BMO Convention Center.
I see.
And so it's performing really well. We had 409 events there over the first 12 months of operation. It's won 8 national or international awards for its design. It really is a facility that will be elements of this building will be copied by other convention centers from this point forward. But for it to really fulfill its potential, we have to have hotel rooms in the area. We have a lot of hotel rooms downtown, and on a nice day, yeah, it's walkable. But convention organizers, meeting planners, they want hotels on site, and they want a certain quality of hotel as well.
Yeah, which leads us to our next point about I forget the date of completion, but there's at least one hotel in the works right now. Just got announced last week that'll be right on Park. The first one, maybe ever on Stampede Park. That
Yes.
would be. There's probably never been a hotel on Park before.
No, there
assuming,
hasn't.
right?
It's been contemplated for at least 20 years.
Yeah.
And so we finally have one going to be built. If they can pull their permits, they should be in the ground this fall for a 2028 opening. Okay. Now, it will be 320 rooms. Realistically, to meet the needs of the BMO Convention Center, we probably need 2,000 rooms in this area. It's a good start. We have 2 other parcels of land on Stampede Park that are owned by the Calgary Stampede. We'd like to put hotels there and get up close to 1,000 rooms. But we know that others will develop hotels in the area as well because of the potential of hosting those conventions. So this first hotel will be, for those who are familiar with the park, it will be in what we call Weedickville. It's at 17th Avenue, McLeod Trail. And it will be 320 rooms, upper upscale, boutique, Western-themed hotel.
Yeah.
So it's going to be pretty special.
I bet. It'll be I don't even know what hotel chain it might be with, but it'll be. I'm just thinking of like the Drover in Fort Worth. That would be the only thing that'd be even kind of close to comparable. I'm imagining.
Yeah, and you know that's kind of the inspiration.
Yeah.
Those who have stayed at the Drover, they know how incredible that is. I mean, you go stay at the Drover just to say you stayed at the Drover.
Yeah.
And this hotel, it'll be on par with that.
Yeah.
It's going to be
probably
spectacular.
Nicer. Sorry, Fort Worth. Yeah. So the hotel's going in and BMO is operational. I gotta just ask, just for curiosity's sake, what was your involvement in the building of the BMO? You got here as it was already underway.
Yeah.
It started during COVID, I want to say. Like, it was being built at that point. There was probably a delay or two, I'm assuming. But did you get to put your handprint on that at all in any way, or that?
No, the plans for that, the funding, it was all secured before
done.
I got
Okay.
here. I just enjoyed watching it being built out of my office window.
Yeah.
And then fortunate enough to participate along with our president and chair of the board at the time with the ribbon cutting and getting it open. And so really my role in that would have been supporting our general manager and making sure he had what he needed to ramp it up and bring it online. But what an exciting time to be in Calgary with that building, and now the new event center going in. There's a lot of exciting things happening in this area.
In the eastern downtown part of Calgary.
Yeah.
Southeast, between the Elbow and the Bow River, I guess, technically. But tell me, where did you learn all this Stampede stuff? Is this recent knowledge to go back to 1884, or is this something? Was this on the test before you got the CEO?
No, I'm an amateur historian.
Okay.
And so when I was at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, I did the same thing. I thoroughly researched the history.
Yeah.
Because I'm a firm believer that you can't possibly know where you're going unless you know how you started and how you got here. And so learning that history to me is part of the job. To understand this organization and how it's developed to meet needs over time. It's changed a lot in those 140 years, but it's changed really to meet needs, but it's stayed true to the mission of promoting agriculture, celebrating Western heritage. A lot of other things surrounding that, and that's okay. Again, you got to put a little sugar on the pill, but those remain our core missions.
The rodeo has gone from, that first poster. It was like, I think it was Labor Day weekend in 1912, I think, and it was what was Wiedeck's line? It was the
Last Great West.
The Last Great West, yeah.
And it was called that because the Big Four, the four local cattlemen and businessmen who each put up $25,000 to finance that first one, they didn't see it as an ongoing annual event. They saw it as a final hurrah, last celebration of Western lifestyle. They saw row crops going in. They saw fences going up. They thought our way of life is disappearing. Let's throw this last hurrah. And so it was a huge success. It drew 100,000 people. I think the population of Calgary was 46,000 at that time. In 1912, it drew 100,000 people. It was a huge success. And so Wiedeck went back to the Big Four and said, this was really good. Let's do this again. And they said, nope, we're good. Because, again, they saw it as a one-time thing. And a lot of people don't know this, but Wiedeck, undeterred, he took the Stampede to Winnipeg in 1913. There was a Winnipeg Stampede.
Yeah.
Very similar. Only drew about 60,000 people, so not as successful as the Calgary version. Unfortunately, there was an economic downturn at that time. World War I started, so it did not stay in Winnipeg. And frankly, Calgary can be grateful for that.
Yeah.
He actually then, in 1916, took it to New York City. There was a New York City Stampede.
Yeah.
And it was held at a speedway.
Really?
A vehicle speedway in 1916. It didn't do real well.
He was from New York.
He was from New York.
Yeah.
He was from Rochester, New York, and so that's where he had the idea to take it back there.
Yeah. Didn't work out.
But they drew about, depends on the source, but most of the papers said it drew about 20,000 people. And then there were stories of rodeo contestants getting stranded because it was so far off their beaten path.
Oh, no.
They didn't know how to get home.
Oh, no.
So that kind of put an end to the Stampede for a while. But then in 1919,
the Victory Stampede.
The Victory Stampede. Guy Wiedeck and Flores Ledoux came back and then approached the Big Four and said, we have to do another one for returning service members to say thank you. And they did, and it drew like 120,000 people, huge success.
Yeah.
Mind you, that industrial exhibition, the agricultural fair, was happening over this whole time on the same grounds,
Okay.
but it was happening a couple months before. 1919 is success. He said, let's keep doing this, and Big Four said, no, we're good. So there was no Stampede in 2021, 1922. In 1923, that agricultural fair started to falter financially again.
Oh.
As I mentioned, they had lost the
land.
The land earlier and then leased it back. And so they joined E.L. Richardson, who was the general manager of the industrial exhibition, and Guy Wiedeck. They basically joined forces, and they combined the two. And it became the Calgary Exhibition and Stampede in 1923. That's the year that chuck wagon racing was introduced, and of course the pancake breakfast that year as well. So Wiedeck, working with Wild Horse Jack Morton, one of the chuck wagon owners, they went and found 6 working chuck wagons off of local ranches, and they raced them. 3 per heat. Looked very similar to what we do today, with the exception of the winner wasn't the first one across the line. The winner was the first one to unload their stove and start a fire.
Yeah.
So you had to see smoke. Unfortunately, in 1924, the drivers took advantage of this, and they started soaking their wood in kerosene and packing their fireboxes with paper. And so then it became the first one across the line, 1925 and later. But then 1923, the pancake breakfast origination was a result of Wild Horse Jack Morton taking his chuck wagon down on Stephen Avenue and cooking pancakes to promote this new sport of chuck wagon.
Yeah.
So serving pancakes, anyone who walked by and said, come see the chuck wagon races. We've done that ever since. So in 2023, we celebrated 100 years of chuck wagon, 100 years of pancake. And there are over 200 pancake breakfasts over the 10 days of the Calgary Stampede. The biggest and best are put on by our committees, particularly the Caravan Committee.
Yep.
But corporate Calgary, other not-for-profits, political groups, they have their pancake breakfasts. And what a great way to share fellowship over a pancake.
I'm not going to lie. I'm usually not up that early during Stampede, Joel. Still at that age where I'm, out a little later usually, so I haven't really partaken in too many of the pancake breakfasts yet. But it's an amazing thing, like for to have pancakes and bacon in the morning. That's all for free. Like people, I don't know how much money is spent on pancake batter and breakfast sausage and bacon during Stampede time, but it's a pretty there's probably a Guinness Book of World Record out there that we
did set it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, International House of Pancakes broke it this past year, so it's on.
It's on, back on. Okay, so rodeo. So new this year, the breakaway roping gets added to the perf at the Calgary Stampede, the first new event. Like there used to be the wild horse racing and wild cow milking, and those have gone away. We've got the wild pony racing that's been around for probably 25 years now, if I'm guessing. But the breakaway, the first new piece to be added into the Calgary Stampede rodeo, biggest change in probably the last
since 1979. 1979 was the year that barrel racing was added. And so this is the first professional sport, we'll call it that, that's been added to the rodeo since 1979. So thrilled to bring breakaway in. Because if you think just 10 years ago, these athletes, when they finished their college career, it was over. And now they're back in the arena, and I'm convinced it's going to be an instant fan favorite because if you can explain the barrier to them, and they understand what a clean bell collar catch is around the neck, it's pretty simple to understand, and it is rapid, it is fast-paced. And I'll also tell you, for our urban audience who isn't exposed to rodeo all the time, they're going to love it because not only is it quick, and it's another ladies' event, but the calf always runs off.
Yeah, exactly.
The calf runs down the arena, whether it gets caught around the neck or not. And so it's going to be, I think it's going to be very, very well received, and we're honored to welcome it to this year's rodeo.
I was super impressed with the breakaway last year at the Canadian Finals in Edmonton. And I think I saw you and Robert there. In the elevator, we were going somewhere, but I remember watching that on Saturday and thinking, this is the best event of the whole show right now. It's new and exciting, but the crowd like you said, can follow along very easily. There was plenty of urban fans in Edmonton that night on the Saturday night of the finals, and Macy was like 1-7, she made a smoke and run and won the title, and the crowd went nuts. They go nuts. It was the loudest part of the whole night, so I'm excited to see that here, and I will say, too, that the Stampede paid $100,000 from 2006 to 2019. So it was about a 13, am I right? Is that a 13-year run with the $100,000 checks? COVID was hard on the Stampede. We can be honest on that front, right? Bringing the money back up to that $100,000 check has been kind of in the rodeo circle, been talked about a little bit. I think we talked about it last time, too. But it would be $300,000 to move that back up to the $100,000, and that essentially went directly on the breakaway roping. So the payout now is back to over the $2 million point. We're at 2.1, not including the Rocky Mountain Cup. I'm just curious, kind of where things are at with that. But like, people got to understand that it's not, you can't just snap your fingers and pull another $300,000 out of the air.
And we have increased the purse since I've been here, but it's gone into the day money. It's not gone into the overall winner. I mean, 50 grand's a pretty good payday.
Oh, for sure.
And even in Canadian funds, if you want to do the exchange rate, that's still
$35,000 US.
It's still pretty good.
Still the second biggest single day check in the PRCA.
But behind Houston.
Which they went up to 65.
65.
This year.
But we've pushed money into the performances. So to win a round here, and you get 3 shots at it, 3 performances,
it's like $7,000.
Yeah. Which is as good as anywhere, even if you factor in the exchange rate. Sure. And then the beautiful thing about the PRCA standings is $1 is $1.
Mm-hmm. Even if it's the wrong or the other currency.
Even if it is. And so when you think about it, winning that final check is huge.
Which doesn't all count either.
It doesn't all count. 80% of it counts toward the standings. Of course, they get full 50,000 Canadian payout. But giving them a chance at $21,000 over 3 days while they're here. That day money, everyone has a shot at that.
True.
Now, you can argue, yes, everyone has a shot at the 50, but only one person is going to win it. Whereas we're paying out through 6th place.
Mm-hmm. It's still like $1,000.
So you have 3 days here, and if if you don't win something
Yeah.
in those 3 rounds, paying through 6th place, you've had a pretty bad rodeo at
true.
this point. So it gives more contestants an opportunity to really make that money. If they're coming up here to Calgary in front of our fans, and so we focus more on the performances than what that final check is.
And the previously it was $5,500 a performance over. There was only 20 contestants that would compete.
Yep.
They each got 4 days plus
They
a
got
wild
4 days.
card.
Yep.
So it was 21,000 then as well, technically. If you count the 4 days, if you 50% it or 40% it, like they used to say, you could win 120,000. Now you're going to be 71,000. Plus you don't get anything in 10 round if you don't.
If you
make the
sweep it,
4 round,
you're 71,000.
71,000, which is still a huge check. But there's still some people that aren't coming now. What are your thoughts on that? Way, like, what is it going to take for the rights to come back to the Calgary Stampede?
Well, we can't make those decisions for them. We can just offer it up and put it out there. But being here 3 days instead of 4, that's a day you can go hit some other rodeos.
Go to Cody
As we all know, that's Cowboy Christmas. There's a ton of rodeos going on at that time, and we don't have a wild card anymore either. So they don't have to come back.
Only for the finals.
Right. So we'll have 10 in each pool. The
3
top
pools.
3 will advance from those 10 after the 3 performances.
Yeah.
So that's 9 coming back for the finals, but there's no wild card, so they don't have to come back after that. That frees them up to hit other rodeos. They know that they've not qualified for finals. And then there's 9 on the final Sunday, and we take that down to 3 now for the showdown. And so we'll have 3 competing in that showdown, which make it go a little bit faster. And that's new this year as well.
And it was part of a time constriction to add the breakaway in. You're going to add at least 12 to 16 minutes.
And not just the breakaway, but just the time it was taking to run 12 and then run 4.
Yeah.
This past year in particular, it's a short turnaround because we've got chuck wagons starting not long
Doors
after
open at
that.
6
So we
o'clock.
have to turn the stadium over.
Yeah.
And so this way, with 9 coming back on Sunday instead of 12, and then 3 coming back for the showdown instead of 4, it'll move things along. And then, yes, the breakaway will add a little bit of time. But that's a pretty rapid moving event, though.
Yeah, it's very true. So, I mean, there's constant improvement going on here at the Calgary Stampede. What can we expect next on the rodeo or chuck wagon front? Like, is that I have to assume that the $100,000 check is still hopeful someday. I don't know for sure, but it paid $50,000 to win it in 1985, and people talk about that. Oh, it's the same. Well, also we've increased the ticket prices for 40 years. We've increased the sponsorship ask for 40 years. GMC went from the Rangeland Derby sponsor, now they're the grandstand sponsor. There's different pieces to the puzzle. That rodeo bucket only brings in so much money. You can't spend a bunch extra to put those big checks in. But I'm wondering what the next move on the rodeo front is.
And we talked about that kind of margin mission thing.
Yeah, exactly,
The rodeo needs to be a net revenue generator. The evening show, Chuck White, needs to be a net revenue generator to really fund these other things.
We don't want to go bankrupt like they did in 1886.
And so, you can say it paid $50,000 to be the champion, 20, 30, 40 years ago. But it didn't pay $7,000 to win a round.
And there was no money for second, third, or fourth place in the showdown.
And so, from my standpoint, I would personally like to continue to focus on the day money.
Okay.
And giving those contestants a shot when they come here for 3 days, they've got a shot to win a lot of money. We still want that in paycheck to be big and impactful. But I really personally really like the idea of continuing to increase that day money and putting more on the line each day of the rodeo.
And the team ropers, I had a little bit of feedback from some of the guys in the team roping world. They're like, oh, the breakaway just rolls in there and they're in the perf all of a sudden, and the team roping still outside, and now it's in August, and but with the Rocky Mountain Cup this year, August 22nd to 24th, I believe, Friday to Sunday, maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I forget, but it's that third week in August, third week in August, at the Nutrien. Expanded format this year. There's some amateur roping. There's some kids dummy roping going to be part of it as well. And 200,000,
no entry fee.
No entry fee.
This year for the top 30 teams in the world to come up here. So just as as background, the Calgary Stampede has never had team roping in its performance. It's not been there in that performance. And as we just talked about, you add events, you add complexity to your presentation, you add time and all those things. We are committed to team roping. And that's one of the reasons why we didn't feel like we were doing it justice with the Rocky Mountain Cup that was happening during the Calgary Stampede on one day. I don't think we were taking proper care of those contestants. And so moving it to August, and it will be $200,000 no entry fee this year. And within 3 years, we're going to get up to the $310,000, so even money with what's paid out in the other events.
But not even on each end yet. But that's further down the way.
Yeah, even money versus equal money.
Yeah,
equal money means you're paying the header and the healer.
Yeah,
$310,000. This one will get up to even money at $310,000, no entry fee event, and we feel like we're going to put on a great weekend show that will involve the community because we have parking. As you said, we'll have youth roping. We'll have a numbered roping for those who want to come in. It's going to be a great weekend. And of course, we'll have trade show and exhibits and things of that nature. And then it's purposely scheduled at that time so that we catch those teams as they're coming up through the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah,
the Pacific Northwest, and they can swing up here for a one-day roping with $200,000 on the line.
And it's not far from Bremerton, Walla Walla, Puyallup, what's the other one? Ellensburg. Like it's all in that timing and that part of the season. So.
Yeah, and we worked with the PRCA to find a date that really fit in and made it convenient or most convenient to come up here and compete for those dollars. Yep.
I've always been a advocate for the Canadian side of the contestant pool, and the Canadian content regressed a little bit with the addition of the PRCA and the qualification system, as far as it changed from being like, it felt like it was about a 25 to 30% Canadian content side of ways, but when with the format change, we moved to 30, it went back to, I want to say, like, I think I calculated it out to be about 17%, like it was a bit of a regression. But I got thinking more on this, and as I talked to different people about it, the closest comparison I can make to it is the RBC Canadian Open in golf was at TPC Toronto the other day, and I looked at the numbers, and there was 20 Canadians in the field and a lot of sponsor exemptions that were kind of looked like invites from what I could interpret. It was a way less of a Canadian representation. You yourself are from the U.S. too. You're leading this organization, but it made me think more on a different way. It's like, well, no, this is. I get the answer that this is we're having the best in the world, and the rodeo might be in Canada, but it's the best in the world that are coming here to compete. So it's just like having a NBA team in Toronto or the Blue Jays. Like it's not inside the normal parameters of what we know rodeo to be in Canada with a Ponoka or the Canadian finals where it's mostly Canadian. It's like a one-off event. It's not even sanctioned by the Canadian Pro Rodeo Association. It's not even technically part of the schedule. So I had to think about it in a different way, but I was kind of curious what your thoughts were.
Well, and so 2019 and prior, for the decade plus, when we weren't a PRCA rodeo, we can invite whoever we wanted. Yeah. And so there was more focus paid to Canadian athletes, and our audience responds to that. We know they do. But going back to the PRCA and the fact that currently only 30 contestants qualify, and you have that big payout at the end, and you have all that day money on the line, we have to work with the PRCA with regard to who gets invited. And so the deal that we have with them now is that we take the top 10 from the prior year standings. So the top 10 is as the National Finals Rodeo wrapped up. We take the top 15 from the current year PRCA standings, and we drop down because some of the 10 from the prior year will drop down. But we do reserve the top 5 from the Canadian standings to make sure that we get those who compete on the Canadian circuit here as well.
Which I appreciate that we still have that Canadian content. There's a lot of Canadian crew, part of the production staff, as far as that way goes. I think there's got to be a little bit of the Canadian content here. I used to think that the Stampede fans in the stands were mostly tourists, But the more that I've lived here, being a Calgarian myself now since 2011, there's a lot of people from Calgary that go watch.
They're Calgarians.
Yeah.
They're Calgarians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that do travel to come watch, but I want to say that my mind has been changed on both the format a little bit and the crowd, where like I don't know the breakdown. You may or may not know.
Yeah, so I don't have a specific breakdown in the stadium, but our grounds, if you look at the 1.477 million people who came through the gates last year, about 72 or 73% of those were Calgarians from the Calgary metro area.
Wow. Which is only 1.2 million right now itself, right?
And then we would draw about 9% that are from Alberta, but not Calgary proper. And then you get about 10% that would be from Canada, but not Alberta. And then you get, roughly 8% that are international visitors. 3% of those would be U.S. and 5% would be from other countries throughout the world. And if you look back historically in the last 10 years, that pretty much holds true. 72, 73% would be from Calgary. And then of the remaining 27%, about a third of them are from Alberta. Yeah. About a third of them are from elsewhere in Canada. About a third of them are international.
Huh. Well, I've been impressed talking with Bree, just like all the different things she's doing every day, going to these pancake breakfasts. Yesterday she was at, I don't know how many places they were at with Harry and I don't know what committee it was, but she went to like 6 people's places as a princess going and doing so much promotions. Incredible.
Pop-up stampedes. Where we go basically set up a mini stampede in
their yard and welcome
in the yard of a new Calgarian. To welcome them
really
here
neat.
Because we know that Calgary is one of the most diverse large cities, and it's fast growing. And so we want to make sure that we have proper outreach to new Calgarians so that we can invite them to be part of our community celebration, hopefully educate them on agriculture, expose them to Western heritage as well.
Yeah. I think I mentioned it last time too, but when I was working in the Eye in the Sky on the evening show of the Chuck Wagons and the Grandstand show, one of my highlights of my time working there was when Harnarayan Singh from Hockey Night in Canada, and they have the Punjabi version of Hockey Night in Canada. He was the guy that called the games, and now he's calling the main games. But he called a chuck wagon race off of a video, just as a little kind of interlude kind of thing. It would have been before your time as CEO. But I was just like, wow, like there's a lot of people that are from that community that may feel more welcome now, having heard something from the Western Canadian culture in their own language. Like just as hockey is transformed in that realm too, that was just the cultural mashup of what was going on there. I thought it was super, super neat.
Yeah. And that's a focal point of ours. I mean, we want everyone to feel welcome and safe in every space when they come here for the 10 days or throughout the year to Stampede Park. That's important to us.
What else is on the horizon that I might be missing so far that we haven't talked about? But there's a new event center just north of the grounds that's going to be completed 2027. Fall of 27, is that right?
Yeah, that's exciting. So Scotia Place will be the new home to the Calgary Flames. Currently under construction in parking lots that formerly belonged to the Calgary Stampede. And it will be completed in time for the 2027-2028 Flames season opener. That's exciting because it keeps the Calgary Flames here another 35 years. The Saddle Dome is truly a fascinating architectural design and an iconic visual image for Calgary, but it's outgrown. It's outlived its usefulness. It doesn't meet needs. It doesn't meet expectations. Traveling acts, concerts. It doesn't meet their needs, and it frankly doesn't meet the needs of the fans with regard to concourses and mobility and all those things as well. And so it's exciting to get a new facility. I've only been here a little less than 4 years, but I think it's a pretty safe assumption to say that it's hard to consider yourself a major city in Canada if you don't have an NHL team. So we're excited to have the Flames be here for another 35 years. And that's exciting for the Stampede because we will incorporate Scotia Place into our programming, much like we do the Saddle Dome now. So we'll have the ability to program it for all 11 days, including the Thursday sneak a peek of the Calgary Stampede with, community events like our powwow that we started up in the Saddle Dome here a few years ago. But really top flight concerts.
Oh yeah, A-level acts.
Yeah, and
just like Shania this year.
The great thing is that between Edmonton and Calgary, both having new or relatively new arenas, it will really help route these major acts through Western Canada. And so Calgary and Edmonton will win because Calgary has built this new facility. It's really exciting to know that this area, we call it the Culture and Entertainment District, which includes Stampede Park, will continue to grow and develop. So bringing in this beautiful new facility, this new arena, will lend to restaurants, retail in the area, additional residential buildings, additional hotels, which of course we need for the BMO Centre to fulfill its potential as well. And when you think about all of that, and you think about the other investments that have been made in Calgary with regard to the Arts Commons, Olympic Plaza, we have the National Music Center just north of us here. Calgary's going to be pretty cool here in about a decade.
Yeah.
And I tell people when I speak to groups that we have this great party tent called Nashville North during the Stampede. There is no reason why Calgary shouldn't be the Nashville of the North. Yeah. I think we can create a similar draw here in Western Canada between all those elements that I just mentioned. It'll just be a cool place to be. When you think of Stampede Park now, it's event-driven. Yeah. You only come here if there's an event, a trade show, a convention, a consumer show, the Calgary Stampede, a sporting event, a concert. People aren't just coming here because it's a cool place to be, or even this area. It's going to be a cool place to be, and people are going to be here all the time, much like Nashville.
Yeah.
And so I joke that my definition of success for the Culture and Entertainment District in this area of Calgary is that if in 10 years I walk north out of the park and I walk beside the new event center, and we have all these great restaurants and clubs across the street to the west, and I take a right and I walk on the north side of the event center, and all those gravel parking lots that no longer want to be gravel parking lots are cool things like clubs and restaurants and hotels. And if I make that trip and I encounter 5 different bachelorette parties, we will have succeeded. And anyone who's been to Nashville knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Right on. That's exciting to think about, though, on that front, because the more dollars that are brought into Alberta, the more that's going to benefit Calgary, Western Canada, Alberta, the Stampede directly. Honestly, the Calgary Sports Entertainment Corporation, they can bring in different pieces to the puzzle. Maybe there's a new draft pick in a couple of years that can rival. Maybe Calgary will be in the Cup Finals again in a couple of years. We'll see how that ends up going. But
yeah,
how much of a hockey fan were you before?
I didn't watch a lot of hockey. I grew up in Colorado, but when I left Colorado, the Avalanche weren't there yet.
Oh, okay.
But
they got there in 96?
Yeah, 96. So I went to Michigan in 95 from Texas.
Also a hockey place.
And I started watching the Red Wings at that point.
And they were good then.
One of the reasons I watched them is my older brother was still in Colorado and he was rooting for the Avalanche, so I naturally had to root for the Red Wings during those epic Stanley Cup Finals. So I got into hockey when I was there.
Okay.
And so no, I enjoy hockey. Okay. Great event. Continuous action and it can turn on a moment. You think, oop, there they go. They got a breakaway. And then all of a sudden it's heading back the other way. So I love that aspect of it.
I got to ask, what are some of the highlights of your tenure so far here at the Stampede? I was kind of curious driving down. I was like, I wonder what some of the best perks are being the CEO of the Stampede, or some of the best shows you've seen so far. Last time we were sitting here, you talked about Cardi B in Houston being a really crazy concert. I forget what the question was or what the answer was, but I look back and you're like, yeah, Cardi B, actually, that was one of the wilder ones. But I just want you to talk on that front so far, like meeting astronauts as parade marshals the last few years, Shania Twain being the parade marshal this
Kevin
year.
Costner,
right?
Coming through,
right?
Which is great. And, just the interactions, the relationships you have with other rodeos, fairs, festivals throughout North America, getting to go to the National Finals Rodeo and interact with people there. It's really is a cool job because you get all these great connections. And the beautiful thing about our industry is that we don't really compete for the same ticket buyer. Geographically speaking, even the rodeos in Texas, they're spread out enough that they're not competing for the same ticket buyer. So it's a sharing culture. Kind of that rising tide lifts all boats. People share. So we'll have a number of different rodeos and fairs and festivals up here. Tournament of Roses will come up this year. Fort Worth, San Antonio, Houston. They'll come up this year. Washington State Fair, Puyallup. Of course, they have a great rodeo there. They'll come. And they interact with us. They enjoy our event. They learn from us. We go to theirs at other times of the year. And we learn from them. And we will implement things here that we see there. So that's really neat to be a part of that. You know, as far as since I've been here, opening the BMO, opening our new SAM Center, which is kind of our cultural center that offers a Stampede experience year-round, finally getting this event center deal across the line was huge for Calgary, but huge for the Calgary Stampede as well, for the reasons I've already mentioned. But as another part of that, the parking lots where that new Scotia Place is being built, we traded those parking lots for the Saddle Dome land. So the Saddle Dome, once Scotia Place is open, within a couple of years, the Saddle Dome will be torn down, and that land is returned to the Calgary Stampede. That's huge, because as Calgary continues to grow, if we just maintain our market share percentage of Calgarians who come to the event, and then continue to draw, from outside of Calgary and around the world, we're going to need more space. So we did 1.477 million. A record crowd in 2024. You think about what that could be, but you have to have the space, because when it comes to attendance, if you don't have space, attendance is self-limiting. If it's too crowded, people don't come.
Or they don't stay.
And so adding that land, it's a little over 11 acres, but it's kind of shaped funny. Mm-hmm. But functionally, it adds 9 acres of space to our footprint during the Calgary Stampede.
Which is 10%, is it not?
And we can also create some really cool things with that space for conventions that are here, because we can free up access to the Elbow River. Calgary's been really good along the Elbow River building things that kind of hide the Elbow River. We have the bus barns that the city of Calgary operates here north of us, the Saddle Dome. That's beautiful land beside that Elbow River. And so freeing up that space and creating more of a park-like atmosphere is going to be really, really special.
We haven't even really talked about this year, besides rodeo, on what people could look forward to. But for those folks that are maybe coming this year, what else is maybe new, or what are some of the big stops to keep an eye out for, big shows to keep an eye out for that maybe haven't sold out yet? I don't know what some of the highlights might be. I could say what mine are, but I'm curious. We haven't even talked about the parade. Like, I'm going to go to the parade for the first time in a couple of years again this year, but
I would think the parade will be huge. We've drawn over 300,000 by Calgary Police Service estimates. They're using drones and taking aerial photos. There's no doubt we'll do at least that this year with Shania Twain as the parade marshal, so that'll be outstanding. We're bringing in some new elements this year and some returning elements. So the RCMP musical ride returns this year, which is great. They'll be here all 10 years.
Pre-show of the Chuck Wagons?
Yep. So nine performance days. I think on Monday they're just going to make a point to interact with the public at the stalls, which is going to be really, really cool. We're expanding Nashville North. This year. And so not the tent proper, but the patio. So that hopefully, Fire Marshal willing, we could host up to another 1,000 people.
Oh, wow.
Inside Nashville North and accommodate that demand. Because, as we all know, music's become a huge part of the Calgary Stampede. It's also a huge part of Calgary's identity during the Stampede. The entire city is a music festival.
Well, and
during the Stampede.
Stampede's winning awards now on the music festival side of things.
Yeah.
Which, kudos to the crew and Adam Oppenheimer with booking all the different acts and all the different pieces to that puzzle. But it's such an every genre
important
too.
Part.
Yeah.
So if you want to connect with a diverse audience, music's a good way to go. With a diverse lineup, and food's not a bad way to go either.
That's true too.
With some really interesting food items that we might bring in this year, and then we will learn from our first year of operating BMO during Stampede with improved layout and functionality of that. Our Stage of Wonders, which was in the new halls last year, actually created some traffic jams, so we're moving it around to Hall D.
Okay.
So that, and then this Stampede Cellar Champion Wine Experience in the beautiful BMO
Oasis.
Champions Ballroom was really special last year. This year it's being sponsored by Holt Renfrew.
Yeah.
We'll expand upon that and make that even better as well. So some really great things happening with this year's Calgary Stampede.
So if there's a day in the life you'd plan for somebody that's coming into town, what would it entail? Top to bottom, like what's a day of Stampede look like for someone that hasn't been here? If we're talking about a new guest,
it's interesting because people ask, well, "What's the best day to come?" And I said, "Well, you can come any day.
All of them, yeah.
Every day is great. Every day we feature that 1:30 rodeo, and that evening show is every single day. If you're interested in a particular horse show, you should come that day. A particular livestock show, you should come that day. But for those who are coming here for the first time, I say, well, come either at the very beginning and catch the parade because it's pretty special, and then head on to park, or come at the end and catch the rodeo finals and the finals for the chuck wagon and the relay as well.
Yeah, forgot about the relay too.
On that final Sunday. That's a great time to be here. And then additional programming that we're working on. We're working with have worked with two of the local sports franchises. So on July 3rd, right? Thursday
and
evening, on Sneak a Peek night, will be the inaugural Stampede Bowl, where the Stampeders will take on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the Stampede Bowl. And there's a traveling trophy associated with that that's pretty cool. I mean,
right on.
It's pretty spectacular. You'll see a lot of cowboy hats there. Last I heard, it's outselling the Labor Day Classic. People are excited to be there. They picked Winnipeg in particular because their fans travel. Yeah. And so my guess is, my hope is that a lot of those Winnipeg fans will lay over and spend the weekend at the Calgary Stampede, which will be outstanding. And then on July 9th, inside the Saddle Dome, the Calgary Surge, the CEBL team will take on Montreal in a basketball game here on site. So continue to work with our community partners to really enhance the experience for both Calgarians and our guests who come here during the Stampede. I just hope we win that Stampede Bowl. I really want to win that Stampede Bowl.
Well, speaking of bowls, if the Oilers win the Cup on Friday, if they can come back and win, are they allowed to come to the Calgary Stampede Parade?
Oh, well, I don't know if the Oilers would come. Any Oilers fans are always welcome at the Calgary Stampede. Everyone's welcome at the Calgary Stampede.
But not in the parade.
As an official entry, I don't think we're going to do that.
Even if they win the Cup, the Stanley Cup could be in Calgary. They wouldn't happen.
Yeah, we'd have to consult with the city of Calgary on that
See
as well.
if they'd allow it.
But no, it's great to have those partnerships and be able to work with our partners here in the community. I've already put in a request with the Stampeders that the opponent for the second Stampede Bowl next year.
Edmonton?
No, it should be Saskatchewan.
Oh,
they travel.
That's a good point too.
They travel, and I've already talked about our agricultural mission. What would be better than to see watermelons on people's heads here on Stampede Park?
That's a good point. I thought when I first saw Stampede Bowl, I was like, wait, they're going to put a football stadium inside the GMC stadium? How are you going to put the turf over the dirt for one day? That'd be a little tricky maybe, but could be fun. Anyways, we're up against our time limit, and we've talked for longer than we probably planned to already, so thanks for your time, Joel.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're looking forward to this year's Stampede. Really appreciate what you do to promote the Western lifestyle and the Western way of life, and hopefully your listeners will come and enjoy the 2025 Calgary Stampede because fantastic celebration that goes back well over 100 years, and we're going to keep doing it and making it bigger and better every year.
Absolutely. Well, and I don't know if we did this last year, Joel, but I got to ask you again. What is your definition of cowboy shit? I don't know if we did that last time. I might have forgot. I want to make sure we get this time.
And it ties a lot to what I just talked about.
That's true.
You know, just celebrating that really that Western way of life, that Western lifestyle. And as we all know, and we've called it kind of the Yellowstone effect, it's on the rise. And we all need to seize upon that to continue to really promote Western lifestyle, Western hospitality, and show people it's a big tent. It really is a big tent. I like to think of the Calgary Stampede as a big tent. I like to think of the Western lifestyle as a big tent as well. If you want to come and enjoy and be part of it, you don't have to live it every day to come and enjoy it and be a part of it.
Well, and quickly before we wrap it up, then what about like the I'm not sure how to phrase this question, but there are some pressures. You mentioned the calf roping, the tie-down roping being a tougher event for the urban audience. Maybe they don't understand, or like, and the truck wagon racing going from 4 wagons to 3 wagons to just the lower amount of horses on park means there's less injuries. If we're just statistically, but there's a fine line between pushing back and like, no, this is our Western heritage. We're not going to change this. Which some places might push back more, where they are more able to. I just wonder where that ends up fitting. Sometimes it's a tough line to dance across.
Yeah,
especially being this big of an organization.
It depends, rodeo by rodeo, with regard to who your core audience is.
True.
Ours is largely urban, and so we have to take that into account. We have to find ways to keep these events alive, but still engage that largely urban audience that may not understand it. And so, when we look at our tie-down roping rules, when we look at 4 wagons versus 3 and lane delineators and all of the animal welfare initiatives that we've incorporated, it's really designed to retain that largely urban audience, keep them as ticket holders, keep them coming back year after year, but still keeping alive the original intent of these competitions, maintaining the integrity of the competition, where it's fair for everyone, no doubt. And quite frankly, we're going to need to continue to evolve as we move forward. But the most important thing is that we keep these things alive and we keep them in the public eye. And really the only way for us in Calgary to be successful with that is to find a path that accomplishes both retaining that largely urban audience that may not come in here truly understanding, but also maintaining the original intent and the integrity of those competitions.
Well, I think that's a great way to finish off. Thanks for doing this today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.